Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast, which is one where we're going to be talking about the manager and leader as coach. And the reason that we are going to be talking about this is we have lots of leaders and managers who come to train with us as coaches, and their plan is to use their coaching skills in their role in their organization. And we recognize that that is different to working as an external or a freelance coach. So we wanted to give some space today to explore what that is.
Absolutely. And if we start with why are leaders coming onto our programs and training as a coaches, we hear lots of reasons from our leaders. For many, it's about being able to be the best leader that they can be, and also having a love for leadership and a love for growing and developing and nurturing talent. And coaching is seen as a vehicle where they can do more of that and spend more time in that space of being able to take care of their team and really spend time getting to know and understand each and every one of the team so that they can lead in an individualized way. So those are some of the reasons that we hear. But of course, there's a huge benefit to themselves as leaders as well, with the confidence and the capability that they develop through the program to be able to lead people with a coaching style.
And I've seen firsthand working in an organization in a head of people development role or in a HR kind of more generalist role around how, as leaders and managers develop coaching skills, it saves them a lot of time doing the firefighting with team members that are constantly coming and asking for their guidance and feeling that they can't make decisions on their own, or they don't have the confidence to do that. And developing those coaching skills enables actually a lot of time to be saved in the long run, as those leaders and managers are able to help those individual team members to develop their own coaching skills and capabilities. And so, as you mentioned, so it is about empowering them, and those leaders and managers feel good about being able to support and develop and grow those individual team members. And it also enables organizations to grow leaders at all levels, which I think is really important.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to lead without coaching. I mean, I would say that because obviously it's what I've been doing for 10 years. But I think as leaders today, people coming into the world of work, the next generation of leaders, these future leaders, they expect more from their leaders. They expect to be heard. They expect to be understood. They expect to be challenged. They expect growth and learning. There are high expectations coming in. And I think having a really good understanding of human behavior and what motivates and drives and inspires people just makes leadership so much more easy, for those people who are in positions of leadership and responsibility. So for me, coaching is a necessary skill as a leader, not actually a nice to have. It's something that I believe all leaders would benefit from having. Not just because of the expectations that come, but also because actually it's about role modeling. And I think for everybody who's in a position of leader, if you look at the span of your control and where you sit within the organization, there are eyes on you, from above and from below. People are watching what you do, how you behave, how you make decisions, how you communicate, how you are growing and developing yourself as a leader. Because when we join organizations, we are looking for examples. I know when I was looking for myself, when I was back in the corporate world, I wanted to work with leaders who were going to inspire and challenge me. And I don't think much has changed in that sense. When we're looking at who we want to work with, we don't just choose organizations, we choose people, and we choose those leaders that we relate to and we resonate with. And so I think it's recognizing our role as a leader, as a role model, to be able to grow and learn ourselves, and coaching is one of the ways that we can do that.
Yeah. And I think manager and leader coaching, using those coaching skills, enables them to work at like the root cause rather than symptoms. So where there are things that require change, it enables them to really understand what that is, and create that positive and sustained change within their team or within their organization. It enables managers and leaders to have more influence. So that's crucial. You know, we're looking at senior leaders or even people that are on the board. How do you enable yourself to be heard? How do you build those relationships with other people? How do you learn and understand what their values are, what it is that makes them tick, so that you can see the world, you know, through their eyes, and also be clear around how you see the world and where those kind of sweet spots of opportunity are as well.
I think there's a piece around leader and manager as coach when you come to coaching that helps you to really define who you are as a leader and manager as coach. So I know when I'm coaching senior leaders, a lot of the work that we do in coaching can be around their leadership brand. And you might think, well, why? Like, why would you spend time investing in your brand as a leader? And I think it's everything that you've just said there, Joe, around influence and impact and consistency and knowing what you stand for and what's important. And that piece around just having confidence and conviction in who you are as a leader is inspirational for those people in your team, because you become reliable for something and as someone who people can come to. And so when you come on coaching, yes, it's about developing the skills to be able to coach others, but it's also often about, you know, discovering a part of your leadership that is really meaningful to you and something that people can rely on you for and come to you with as well.
So what is manager and leader as coach? Because again, we hear people, you know, talk about these things, or they might be titles for programs, but what does it actually mean? For us, it's very much about that manager or leader being somebody that makes space, that takes time to create that safe space, to enable that team member or that wider team to express and explore their thoughts, you know, the reasons that they're having those thoughts, what are they feeling, you know, at that moment in time, or about a project, or, you know, about themselves in relation to a project or a task. And also to explore the connection then to their behavior, and how are they going to need to behave in order to get that thing across the line. And all of those connections, and having the courage to inquire, to create a contract for that conversation. We say it time and time again, it's not a do to conversation, it is do with. And each and every person is going to want to have a different relationship with you as their leader or as their manager. So that's about ensuring that you explore, what is the relationship that you want to have with me as your manager, or even as your coach, and also about being clear when you are going to stretch people more, maybe, you know, in that role of coach versus the other types of roles that you might have in relation to them. And I think manager and leader as coaches, being able to hold that kind of groundedness, either understanding when or where you might get triggered in conversations, and being able to have that early identification of that, and being able to adjust it, or even share that you're having that experience and what that might mean, and exploring with the other person around that. Or perhaps you have done the internal work through your own coaching journey and part of becoming trained as a coach, so that you don't get triggered in your role as manager or as leader.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned a lot there, you know, around, yes, it's about holding space. I think it's also about having, you know, new skills to be able to challenge and stretch your team members to ultimately not get more out of them in terms of like rinsing every piece of value that you can get from a resource. It's coming from a place of, how do your team members want to grow? And how do your team members want to experience being a part of that organization and being able to deliver an experience that is meaningful? Because there are employees within organizations that don't want to grow in the typical sense, but they still have values that need to be met, and they still have motivations they want to tap into. Their growth might be about feeling that they're doing a terrific job and are being incredibly valued by the organization. So how do you as the leader meet that need versus perhaps somebody who wants to climb the corporate ladder, is traditionally very focused on their growth and development. So as a leader, you need a lot of agility to be able to attend to each and everybody's needs. And I think leader as coach, it's holding space in order to meet people's needs, and understand their motivations and how they want to be in that organization. Whilst obviously the impact of that from an organization's perspective is high performance, because you have motivation, engagement, commitment, and people want to turn up to work and be there.
Yeah, and part of it, as you mentioned earlier, is being able to describe and own that, as a manager, as a leader, my style is a coaching style, and being able to explain to others what that is. And really, it's that move away from having a defined coaching relationship for a set number of sessions or period of time, to actually using your skills in an ongoing way. So if you train to be a coach, it's about taking different semi-structures for conversations, expanding your toolkit. So having that awareness that when somebody's having a conversation with you, what might be explored or that the individual might be unaware of. So it's helping to raise the other person's awareness, being able to use semi-structures, or even you'll have learned about different questions that might be quite provocative, or just unlock something for the individual. So we might think about Johari's window, for example, where there's what the individual knows about themselves, and you might know about them as the manager, or other stakeholders might know about them. There's a bit that they know that they don't share with others, and I think having a coaching kind of skill set enables that to move into the share, give them the confidence to bring that into the shared space. And you've got the stuff that you might have some thoughts about that the individual might be unaware of. So how do you start to explore that with them? And then you've got this untapped area of potential that nobody knows. And I think that's where the manager and leader as coach really comes into their own. That's a really exciting, bit to be with them. A manager and leader as coach, I think, is also about looking at that individual and caring about their future. So kind of separate to the organization. What does that individual want? They may not want to stay with the organization forever. And how do you enable them to make the progress and the contribution that they want to make whilst they're in the organization? So the organization gets real value, the individual gets the experience that they're looking for, and actually you support them to make those other steps that maybe outside of the organization. And that's okay. That's a sign of success. And also it's about enabling them to identify what their needs are and helping them to explore how can they get those needs met. And being having that coaching skill set and mindset just really helps with resilience. We know that being a leader and a manager is really demanding. How do you manage your own energy levels, around those things? And how do you sometimes you might just think, I don't know what to do. Well, what is that? How do you explore that yourself and then work out how you're going to approach that?
And of course, leader and manager as coach isn't about coaching all the time. It's not that every conversation you have is going to be a coaching conversation, because sometimes conversations need to be more directional. People need more instruction than they do in terms of getting the information out of them. But what leader and manager as coach does enable you to do is to do the follow-up. So let's say you have a message to deliver that is challenging to hear. Perhaps it's about performance, or it's some feedback that you think that could be, emotionally hard for that person to receive. The coaching isn't necessarily about that conversation, but it can be about the follow-up in terms of the support that you're able to offer, not just from a task-based perspective, but from an emotional support perspective as well, in terms of really being able to understand, I think you said it just then, Jo, the needs of that person in any given situation. So if anything, it just gives you more levers to pull as a leader in terms of how you can help and support your team and your peers to be able to thrive in the workplace.
So we've talked a little bit already about like the hows, haven't we? But what we haven't talked about is that contracting piece, as we call it, from a coaching perspective, which is just those simple opportunities where, an individual might come to have a conversation with you. You might be looking at your diary and thinking, oh my goodness, like I'm supposed to be somewhere else in 15 minutes. So you're actually saying, but I've got 10 minutes now. Let's sit down and explore that. Are you happy for me to ask you some questions to help you explore this? I know you've come to me for an answer, but I'd really like to help you be able to develop your confidence in this area. And if the other person says, yeah, that would be great. Okay. And then helping them to work that through using some of the coaching tools and resources that you'll have learned as a coach yourself, through training. And then that individual knowing, okay, so I've got 10 minutes, but 10 minutes is a long time if it's a high quality, very much in contact conversation. And then that person, you're checking in with them. Have you got what you need? What's your learning from this conversation? When we've got more time, so when we've got our next one-to-one, would you like to explore in a bit more depth about your confidence when it comes to decision making? And they might say, well, yeah, that would be amazing, because they might just not know. They might not have had experience of having a manager, that would have shown that level of interest or given that much time to them in the past. And so the contracting is about time, it's about environment. And I think environment is a really critical thing in terms of the impact on conversations. So is this a good time for us to be having this conversation? Shall we have this conversation at another time? So it's giving the other person the opportunity to feel in control of that conversation as well.
I think another place where contracting comes up is around delegating. So when leaders have things that they want to empower their team to do, I think one of the things that is often quite hard for leaders, particularly if they're new to leadership, is to step away from needing to be all over everything, that shift from being an individual contributor to being a leader. And coaching is something that can really help with that transition, because you're able to contract around, okay, so here's something that I would like your support with. Is that something that you're interested in? Is that something that you feel able to do? Great. What support do you need? When might you be able to do that by? If you're going to be running behind, here's what I need, because this is what I'm going to be working on when you're able to give that back to me. So helping them to see what happens upstream, so that they understand, their place in that delegation process, as well as you showing an appreciation for what is happening downstream. And so together you're co-creating what is being delegated and when it can be done by. And that can remove a lot of anxiety from leaders who perhaps have high need for control, but it also empowers the other person with clarity and accountability and responsibility to deliver on what they have agreed to as well. And delegation is a really common skill, obviously, as a manager, as a leader, but something where coaching really can help to elevate the ability to do that with confidence and with clarity amongst team members as well. So that's just two small examples of where, coaching skills can really help to empower leaders in organizations.
Yeah, transparency is key, I think, is what we're saying. And having that coaching skill set enables you to do that with confidence and also with authenticity. Conflict resolution is it's something that a lot of people struggle with, no matter what level you're at in an organization. It happens. There is going to be conflict and tension in relationships. And I think conflict goes hand in hand with boundaries, because conflict often arises where individuals feel that boundaries have been crossed. Somebody is doing a piece of work that somebody else thought was their responsibility, or somebody's taken credibility for a piece of work that somebody else has put together, or that's their perception of it. And I think conflict often happens when needs aren't articulated. And so training to be a coach gives you brand new perspectives around how conflict arises and different options and opportunities to resolve it in a way that is depersonalized. And that really is critical to managing and leading well. Whereas a lot of people in those situations internally can feel like they're crumbling because they don't know what to do, and they're really worried about doing it wrong or making a situation worse. Whereas that coaching mindset, bringing the curiosity to it and having the confidence to have the conversations that need to be had, it can be completely transformational for the individuals involved, as well as obviously the outcomes for the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening to this and you are a leader or a manager and thinking that coaching skills would really benefit you, there's lots of different levels that you can enter coaching with us. And if you're wondering which coaching course is right for you, then head over to mycoachingcourse.com and take our quiz, which will help to guide you around your first steps into coaching.
And another great resource for you is our YouTube channel. So you can check out In Good Company with Joe Wheatley and Zoe Hawkins, where there are many, many demos of different coaching tools and techniques that you can take a look at, or maybe you want to share with your team who might also be interested in how you can co-create a coaching culture, and so you can learn and grow together.